Hey guys, I am Adam. Welcome to the Vintage Sanctuary. I had a bit of fun with my last video, but I must confess I was feeling kind of down when I made it, which is probably not the right time to be making videos, but nonetheless, I very much appreciate all of your kind words and your encouragement for me to just be authentic in my collecting and authentic in my YouTube videos, have fun with it, connect with others. So hopefully, that message is getting through this thick skull of mine. So thank you very much. Let me turn the camera around here. So this is a card I did show last time, but if you watch that video, you will know I said pretty much nothing about this card. Kiner speaks for itself. But this is the 53 Bowman color Ralph Kiner, and what a beautiful, groundbreaking set. If I understand correctly, when Bowman was competing with Topps, the money they spent creating this groundbreaking Bowman color set really set them back financially, and maybe had something to do with them ultimately losing the Bubblegum Card Wars. This is a card that I've had for some time, and nobody's ever heard this about Ralph Kiner, but it turns out, nobody ever shares this, that in his first 7 years in the league, from 1946 through 1952, 7 years in a row, he either tied for the most home runs in the National League or he had the most home runs. I think he tied with Johnny Mize maybe 2 or 3 times, perhaps. And so what an amazing accomplishment. All of those home runs he hit when he was leading the league were as a Pittsburgh Pirate. And then he went on, and I believe he played for a couple of other teams as well, the Cubs and the Indians. However, he became a broadcaster. By the way, he also was a Navy pilot during World War II. But he became a broadcaster and started broadcasting the New York Mets games. And I believe he was a broadcaster for 51 or 53 seasons, which is really just outrageous. And he was known for his occasional malapropisms, usually by getting people's names wrong, such as calling his broadcasting partner Tim McCarver Tim MacArthur, calling Gary Carter Gary Cooper, and he even once called himself Ralph Corner. Despite a bout with Bell's palsy, which left him his speech slightly slurred, Kiner continued broadcasting for 53 seasons. So Kiner's tenure with the Mets was the third longest for an active broadcaster with a single team as of his final season. So that is really, really pretty cool. And I'd like to show another card I have not shown before that I picked up recently. Iad Schmidt. That's what I do. We've got this 77 Topps Mike Schmidt. It's surprising to me that this is my first card from 1977, which is pretty cool. And I love the colors on this. And, this card is just in amazing condition. It's surprising to me that when you get into the late 70s here, you can get cards in, really high grades, and they don't cost that much. I think this was $55 that I paid for this one, plus some shipping. But, I just don't see how this card can get any nicer, it's just like perfect. Love the green on the back. Love that huge Mike Schmidt along the top. Big fan of forest greens, actually just about any green. Hank Bauer once hit safely in 17 straight World Series games. This reminds me I need to show off Yankee contributor Hank Bauer sometime. I have a couple of his cards that are really nice. We've got Mike Schmidt. By the way, you've got Ralph Kiner he led the league or tied in home runs 7 times, but now we up the ante here. Mike Schmidt led, I believe, National League as well in home runs 8 times. So that's a new pickup that I have not shown off. And now I'm going to keep you in a little bit of suspense. I've got a card here that is something else. So I'm going to spare no expense here. What's that, a tissue over the card? That is, we have spared no expense covering up the card. Why couldn't this card be the greatest card of all time, the card I'm about ready to show? Now, what does it mean for something to be the greatest card of all time? Most expensive? Not necessarily. Best player ever? Not necessarily. Best set ever? I mean, just what goes into making a card a candidate for greatest card of all time? The more I've thought about it, at least in my opinion, I think this card could be a candidate for greatest card of all time. And I tell you, I've been on cloud Gem Mint 10 since I got this beauty. Because I just think the set is, one of the most significant sets, one of the most beautiful sets. I think the player is one of the most significant players in all of Major League Baseball history. And I just don't see why this card cannot be considered the greatest card of all time, or at least one of the greatest cards of all time. And I realize that's in the eyes of the beholder. I can tell you that in my mind, this card is one of the greatest cards of all time, and I'm so stoked to have it. All right, well, let me just tell you a little bit about this player. His mother was Mexican. She was born and raised in Mexico, but this player hid that he was Mexican-American to avoid prejudice until maybe a month before he died, and his relatives on his mom's side were not happy about that. His father was an alcoholic, mostly an absentee father. He and his younger brother, grew up in Depression-era San Diego, and they were poor. This player struggled with anger, perhaps resentment toward his mother, who was a soldier in the Salvation Army, and would be saving souls on the streets of San Diego into the night, as this player and his younger brother would fend for themselves, out playing baseball. They might be sitting on the porch at 10 or 11 at night waiting for their mom to come home and cook them a warm meal. As an adult, the daughters of this player sometimes thought he was mentally ill because of his anger, but he did channel that anger constructively on the ball field. He said he would hit better angry, so he would manufacture feuds with the baseball writers or fans. He did become more of a beloved figure in retirement, though, than he was when he was playing and feuding. He hit .388 at age 39, which is just outrageous, and he thought of that as a bigger achievement than what he did in 1941. If he could have ran faster, he probably could have hit over 400 at age 39. He was a tall, lanky guy who many consider the greatest hitter of all time, a true American hero who lost nearly 5 prime seasons to military service. He was shot down in combat. He bridges the gap between pre-war baseball and post-war baseball. And this card we'll be looking at is from the first post-war baseball color set. And this may very well be his best-looking card. So again, why can't this card I am about to show be the greatest card of all time. A Marine fighter pilot, thin-skinned. He gave the finger to the crowd. I'm not sure how often he did this. I know at least at one point. He simply could not accept criticism. He is the all-time on-base percentage leader at .482, and when you think about that, that is just crazy, getting on base just about half the time. He was ahead of his time by placing a premium on getting on base at a time when it was thought that your best hitter, should go for RBIs, and not necessarily just to get on base. But his thought was, if you start swinging at pitches that are just a little bit bad, well, then the pitcher will take more liberty and make the pitches even a little bit worse and a little bit worse, and you'll be chasing these bad pitches. So he was keeping the pitchers honest, so to speak. This player envied Mantl's speed and said if he could run like that, he'd hit 400 every year. He visited a physicist at MIT to discuss the physics of batting. He was way ahead of his time using a lighter bat, saying it would increase his bat speed and ultimately produce as much power as a heavier bat. He turned down Harvard's honorary degree offered to him in 1991, 50 years after his stellar 1941 achievement on the field, because he said he did not earn it and he would feel out of place with his high school education among the degreed at Harvard. A teenager once wrote him about heating bats to dry them out and make them lighter. He tried it and started heating his bats. He was a one-dimensional player who admitted DiMaggio was the better all-around player. But again, many consider him the greatest hitter at all time, and that's what he wanted. He wanted people to see him walking down the street and say, there goes the greatest hitter that ever lived. All right, are your eyeballs ready for some fire? (1949), depending on who you talk to, 1948-49 Leaf, number 76, Ted Williams. I mean, to me, this card is just glorious. So this came as a buy it now on eBay. It was a saved search, and so in the morning, I got the new saved listings, and this one was still available. It was buy it now or best offer. So I made a best offer, but while my best offer was sitting there, I didn't spend too much time. I started researching and I realized, the last couple of threes that sold for a little bit less than the buy it now on this one, but the registration was off. And anyone that knows, this is my first 49 Leaf, by the way. Anyone that knows 49 Leaf knows that the registration can just be all over the place. And so this one just has spot-on registration. And so I said, you know what? I'm just going to pay the buy it now price, because I don't think this is going to hang around too long. And I am glad that I did. I really don't think this card would have been available. It was priced fairly. I think if it had went to auction, if this dealer had chosen to auction it, then I probably would not have gotten it, or I would have had to pay quite a bit more. That's my feeling. Of course, nobody can say for sure, but I can say this: I am super stoked to have this card. It's simple, isn't it? I mean, the large font Ted Williams, the name bar down there. Look at how part of the Boston you can see on his shirt just glows, and then his blue sleeve coming out of his, white jersey there, just like it's fluorescent. This card is just amazing. And then I know I mentioned already that, the registration is just spot on for this card. And that orange, just that bright, vivid orange background, A little bit of wear, as you can see, but still pretty sharp for a free 3. Just enough wear to really enhance that vintage eye appeal. And then looking at the back, notice really nice, clean back. So, yeah, I am just super, super stoked. Why can't this card be a candidate for the greatest card of all time? Well, it is, in my opinion. Thank you for sharing in my joy. I hope you had a wonderful and peaceful time in the Vintage Sanctuary.